Hello and welcome to the Westcity Church podcast. If you'd like to get to know us more, find us at westcitychurch.com.au. We really hope that you're encouraged by today's message.
Morning, West City. It's great to be here. I'm John, and I've been here for a while, actually. For those of you I haven't met yet, I look forward to meeting you guys. We will have communion later, towards the end of our service, but just a thought for now. I love Christmas, but I love Easter more. Easter is just a bit more relaxed, a bit more reflective, and, less commercial. And it's always been a time in my life as a time to pause, reflect, take stock, and reflect. When we take communion, that is a look at the Easter story, really. And it's a time for us to pause and to reflect. My thought today is that it's my prayer that we all do that this Easter, wherever we find ourselves, that we take time to consider what it is that communion, what Easter, the body broken for us, the blood shed for us, what that means. Because Christmas is a gift to us, but Easter is a gift for us, for God so loved the world, that this is what he did. And when we take communion this morning, I just pray that we reflect, take a moment, realise what we're doing, and no matter how young or how old we are here, that it has an impact on us, that just the power of what we do when we take communion can just glean into us and be part of us. That's my prayer. Let's take communion together later. Thanks.
So good to be here. You may not know me because I hear there's been like lots of new people and visitors, and you've heard of this guy, Phil. Does he exist? Yes, I'm here. We have such a beautiful team at Westcity, incredible teachers. Hope you've been enjoying yourself. I look forward to meeting you afterwards if you are new. If you're a regular, good to see you again. It's good to see some of my mates here today. I can see at the back there, Troy is here. Is Craig here? Craig Melican, right. Going to get him later. Jason sent his apologies, so he's okay. And today, I want to talk about that final thing in the cover-up. In the soul detox, and my soul detox. My title today is "No Filters Required," and that's where cover-up came in. Confession versus cover-up. I haven't spoken for a while, so if it takes me a while to get into this, just bear with me, okay? But let me ask you a question. What is your most embarrassing moment? What is your most embarrassing moment in all your life? One of mine was, I've just been back to England to see my parents, but one of mine was when I was in junior school. So I was about 11 or 12. And I wasn't young. I was about 11 or 12, and I was getting ready for school, and we'd run out of jocks at home. And I said, "Mom, I've got no jocks," because they magically appeared in my top drawer, and it was empty. And so Mom comes up, has a look around, and she says, "Oh, you don't have any?" And I said, "Well, I'll just have to go to school, commando style or whatever." And she's like, "No." She's like, "You must wear clean underwear." She had this weird thing about clean underwear that if you got run over or hit by a car, the ambos would come and you need clean underwear. I'm like, it was weird. And I would always think, if I got hit by a car, I think my underwear wouldn't be that clean, but anyway, it's another story. She convinced me to wear my sister's knickers. I can't believe I listened to her, but I put them on. And I remember they had little flowers on, a little lacy thing on the other thing, they were quite comfy actually. And then I went to school, junior school, and I forgot all about it. Right up until the moment where in PE, in the middle of the change rooms, I was pulling my pants down, and a guy said, "Are you wearing knickers?" True story. And I was called Knicker Boy for the rest of junior school. I wanted to move, that's why we came to Australia. I'm in the witness protection program. But what's your most embarrassing story? I could give you a few moments to tell the person next to you. The truth is, if I were to invite Troy up to tell his most embarrassing story, he's like, why did I even come today to church? The challenge is with those things, it's like sometimes we don't want to share them, do we? We don't want to expose ourselves. And as I said this morning, I think that's deeply baked in us, and some of you are thinking, yeah, you probably shouldn't have shared that with us. But I want to talk today about the fact that we don't need filters in God's kingdom. No filters required. And there's two ways I think we can live. We can live covering up our flaws and our challenges, or we can live confessing them. I'm going to try and argue today confession is a good thing. I don't know if I'll convince you, but here we go. I've just been, as you know, to England, 60th wedding anniversary for my parents, and part of what I did was, while I was over there, is walk the Camino, and I landed in a place called Seville, the most beautiful city I've been in. It's gorgeous. I said to Caroline, you need to come. You need to come. We'll go back there. Our daughter's getting married next year, and we're going to kick on to Europe, and I want to take her to Seville. And this walk, the Camino walk I did this year, was different to last year, because last year we had a company that took our suitcases from place to place, and we just walked with our water bottles and kind of, just a day packing kind of stuff that we needed. This time I had to carry everything I needed on my back. And I want you to know, and I think Stu mentioned this, I was like some of his girls at school, like I overpacked way too much. And every kilometer of the average of 20, 25 kilometers a day, every step I took on that walk, I was reminded that I overpacked. Too many of my sister's knickers, too many socks. I didn't need all the jeans I put in there. I didn't need half the stuff. I only need one pair, one t-shirt. I put too much stuff in there. I had a spare pair of sneakers on the back, and this is a picture of me walking through the mud. And I was especially reminded that my backpack was way too heavy when I tried to take a detour, because a lot of the pathway was flooded out, freezing cold water. And so I decided I would go up this farmer's field up on the right-hand side embankment, and I ended up walking through a bunch of beehives. And I thought, if I'm at peace with God and with the world, then they shall not harm me. I shall pass. But the bees had a different idea, and they said, you shall not pass. And I was attacked. And as I was running down the hill, I was reminded I was carrying too much weight in my backpack. And as I fell in the mud and slipped over and was rolling around being attacked by bees, I thought to myself, I should have packed lighter. I think confession is the tool or mechanism to help us walk light on this earth. Confession is a mechanism that helps us not carry weights around all our lives and feel that burden. Confession is a beautiful reminder that God wants us to be unburdened. It says in Hebrews chapter 12, 1-3, one of my favorite scriptures, says this. Chapter 11 is talking about men and women of faith, and these flawed people we read about in the Bible, and we discover their flaws, but yet all of them trusted in God, had this risky trust where they said, we think we want to go God's way. Some of them saw incredible miracles, others were sawn in half, which goes to show, it's faith in God doesn't just guarantee some beautiful life-lived outcome. Sometimes faith has to be gritty and we have to face obstacles. But the writer of Hebrews in chapter 12 starts with this word, wherefore. And whenever you see wherefore, you have to ask, what it's there for, right? So he's just talking about chapter 11. And then he makes this encouragement. Seeing we are also encompassed about with so great cloud of witnesses, let us lay aside every weight and the sin which does so easily weigh us down or beset us, and let us run with patience the race that is set before us. Looking unto Jesus, the author and finisher of our faith, who for the joy that was set before him endured the cross, despising the shame, and is set down on the right hand of the throne of God. So there's this encouragement there to walk light, to travel as pilgrims light through this world, right? And he says, what I want you to do, seeming as all the people who have gone before are cheering you on, and they've lived a life in surrender to God. I want you to walk light. I want you to walk light. And it's interesting, because I would suggest here, even though this isn't expressly say confess, I would suggest here that one of the ways we walk light is through this mechanism of confession. Notice he says this, lay aside every weight and sin. Every weight and sin. Lay it aside so you can run well, so you can endure the race, so you don't get bogged down. You might be here today and you think I'm going to get all heavy and talk about sin. I would just suggest to you that whenever sin is mentioned, you just understand, maybe what one of our church fathers said, Augustine, he said, sin is like disordered desires or disordered love. It's when we put the little loves in our life in the wrong place. And he said this beautiful statement, he said, love God and then do what you will. Because he knew that when love of God, the big love is in place, some of those disordered loves are in the right place. He was like, nothing is sin in a bad way. It's just that we put it in the wrong place. And so I just want to say that when I talk about sin, and the Greek word for sin is hamarti, which means to miss the mark. And so God doesn't want us to miss the mark. He doesn't want us to miss the fact that he loves us and he created us and he wants us to be in fellowship and friendship with him. That's the purpose of life, I believe, to actually know that you're God's kid and know that he wants to hang out with you and rub off on you. And so the writer of Hebrews, though, says, if you want to run light, I want you to lay aside the sin, but then he says, and weight that so easily besets you. Some things aren't sin, but they're weights. And I want to encourage you today. I know we have all come in here with weights, with stuff in our backpack. Look at the person next to you and say, yep. Yeah, because anyone who says they don't, So here's what I would suggest. If you're isolated and lonely, confess it. If you're hurt and burnt out, confess it. If you've got addictions, confess them. If you're wounded or you have faith doubts, you're like, I don't know whether all this God stuff is for me, or I have doubts, I've been hurt, confess it. Because I would put to you that confession is a way of walking light, laying aside every weight, not just sin, but every weight. Because God doesn't want you to walk heavy. He doesn't want you to be burdened. We live in a culture, don't we, where our culture that we're in encourages cover-up, encourages filters. I have them on my, electronic stuff. When I'm talking to Caroline and the girls, I put the filter on, I press the button, and all of a sudden, my yellow teeth go white, my wrinkles disappear, and she's looking at the man she married rather than the haggard, worn-out, leathered-faced man who's looking at her now. No one on Facebook posts, you know what, I really struggle with this habit, this thing, you know what, I think I'm depressed. I just want to let the world know. We're always putting our favorite meal, letting the world know we are living our best life now. And it's so strange. I've done it. Life's good. Look at me on this beach in Bali. And yet there can be a bunch of stuff going on in my life that I don't want anyone to know about. So our culture encourages us to cover up, right? To have the filters, to put this veneer on so everyone can see it and think, I'm so jealous of you. I wish I was you. How many people know that you pretty much don't want them to be you? Let's be honest. We don't want them to be in our world if they really knew. And so we're encouraged, and this isn't new. The very first story in Genesis is of Adam and Eve covering up, right? Covering up. They kind of get into this way where they ignore what God had said for their fullness. And so what do? They hide, and they hide in the bushes. And God comes along and he says, where are you? Why are you hiding? And they say, because we're ashamed. We're ashamed. We're naked. Who told you you're naked? This is not a new story for us as humans. And so when we talk about confession, the default setting is for us to go, because it's been the way since the very beginning for us. But God says, I want you to be courageous and brave, knowing I love you. Knowing I'm not the one that if you come and you share with me, I'll be like, right, you little. And if you've got a view of God like that, please let it change, because that's bad theology. What is bad theology? Anything that hurts you or others. You need to change it to know God is waiting because he loves you, and nothing you can say will shock him. How many parents do I have here today? How many of you have been shocked by something your kid has told you? Give me a wave. I can't even go into it because I do not want to expose my girls. They were super honest with us, and they would share stuff. And you know what we did? We would sit there, and while they were sharing it, especially Caroline, she got the brunt of this. You would literally train your face, right? To not show what's going on inside. And what's going on inside is, oh my gosh! What the heck? On the outside, you're like, oh, yeah. Tell me some more. Oh, yeah. Oh, you did that. Oh. God isn't like that. When you tell him, he's not like, Gabriel, what the heck? I did not know. He's got big shoulders and a big, big heart. It says that we love him because he first loved us. God's love can handle the worst in us, I'm telling you. And so God invites us to unburden through honesty and confession rather than covering. And James 5:16 says this. It says, confess your faults one to another. I've got the context here. Is anyone among you sick? Let them call for the elders of the church to pray over them and anoint them with oil in the name of the Lord. And the prayer offered in faith will make the sick person well. The Lord will raise them up, and if they've sinned, they will be forgiven. What a beautiful, beautiful statement. Therefore, confess your sins to each other and pray for each other so that you may be healed. The prayer of a righteous person is powerful and effective. There's three purposes, I think, to confession. The first one is that it breaks the power of isolation and secrecy. Have you noticed that what is hidden often becomes incredibly powerful in our lives? When we have secrecy and we hold things, they become bigger than Ben-Hur. I've found as well that things that stay hidden often isolate me from others. I work as a chaplain, as you know, and I think part of chaplaincy is like this beautiful confession moment where someone comes and shares, like I said, something that they're depressed, or that they've had a marriage breakup, or that several years ago they lost a child to tragic circumstances, and this was their anniversary. John, who is also a chaplain, an industrial chaplain who sat here today, one of the things we do is we learn how to go around and just observe people. We learn people's baseline behavior, and we observe when people are struggling, and we ask the question. We don't force things. We ask the question, how are you? The whole idea of confession is that we don't live isolated lives. We don't suffer in silence. We don't carry things that seem to get heavier and heavier by the day because they're hidden, because we're embarrassed or ashamed. The second purpose of confession, I think, is to reconnect us with community. One another, it says in that passage, confess your faults to one another. Wow. Can I say you need a safe person, though, if you're going to confess your fault? If you're going to just open up, you need someone safe. Can I just coach you on being a safe person if someone comes to you? Be a parent. Don't show on your face, even if you are thinking something on the inside, okay? Have empathy. Listen and reflect. It's not about you. When someone's sharing their stuff, it's not about your story. They don't want to hear a similar story in your life. Let it be about them. Silence is golden when someone's telling you stuff. Be curious and empathetic. It's okay to ask questions. Don't drill down into the nitty-gritty, dirty, underwear part, sister's knickers part. Don't go into that. But be curious. How do you feel? What happened? A lot of being a good listener is what I call empathetic grunts. But you have to mean it. You can't pretend. You have to. But what am I saying here? Fight the urge to make it about you or talk. Listen. And it says, confess your faults to one another, pray for one another. One of the beautiful things is just in the quietness of your own heart, be praying for that person. Oh, Lord, what a beautiful thing this person has shared this prayer of thanks. Oh, just Spirit, come and just hug them. Hug them, God. Get them. Wrap your arms around them right now because they're unburdening themselves. Their backpack is getting lighter. And I have got the privilege of sharing that story that with them. They're sharing, they're trusting me. Be a great custodian of that story. Realize the privilege you have of hearing that story. But don't be a teller of that story. Hold it. I hope if you ever choose to detox your soul in this way and get into some confession, that you find safe people. I hope Westcity becomes not just a welcoming place, but a safe space where we can be real, right? When we move towards people with raw honesty, God has designed it that they move back to us and reflect God's grace. 25 years ago, I was speeding and taking young people to a kids camp, and I had a couple of youth group members in the back of my car, and I had some of our ACE teams. I ran a training course called ACE Teams with Caroline in the car as well, and we're heading down to Busselton for this camp I'd put on. And I was speeding and I was distracted, and I'd been up the night before, and I didn't see the red light. And I went through the red light, and a car was pulling out on Tonkin Highway. And I swerved to avoid the car, which I did, and went into a sideways skid and took out the traffic light pole in the back right-hand side of the car. And there's a young boy from Ethiopia whose mum had come as a refugee, and that pole hit his head, and he died. I was booked with dangerous driving causing death. I wanted to go to jail. I wanted to punish myself, and I was, like I said, there's no other way of saying it, I was at fault. And I remember the first Sunday I went to church, and Yilma's mum, Asefu, was there. And I couldn't look at her, but she ran over to me, and she hugged me, and she said, I forgive you, and I love you. I don't know how she did it. I don't know how she did it. Some people talk about grace. God's unmerited, undeserved favor. I have lived it. It changed me. Her love, despite my, I want to swear, my beeping stuff up. Her love reflected what God's love must be like. I didn't need anyone to judge me. I judged myself pretty good. But you know, I was changed by that unconditional love. I was changed. I don't have time to go into it, but I want to let you know the only reason I can talk about that with you today, yeah, it's still painful to think about her and Yilma. The only reason I can talk about it because I decided early on never to cover it up. It's part of who I am. It's part of my journey. It's not the whole part, but it certainly is a part. I don't want to go through life where there's topics I can't talk about, or there's things I can't go near because I haven't brought them out. I'm not there yet, but I'm on the journey. The third thing is it opens the door to God's transformation. And that's, I guess, what I'm talking about. God is so ready. You know, in AA, you get up and you say at the beginning, hi, my name's Phil, and I'm an alcoholic. There's something about just acknowledging where you're at. I had to re-look at the steps of AA. They're beautiful steps, those 12 steps. Amazing. And one of them is to say, I need a higher power. I need God to come. And so I surrender to him. I acknowledge and I surrender and I say, come and do what only you can do. Confession, I think, opens the door to that type of God at work in our lives. I simplified the process from AA because I think here's the breakdown of what it could look like as I finish today. Do you have it, Kerry? Thank you. Firstly, admit where you're stuck and weighed down. Just admit it. You know, like I said, it might be a weight. Where are you stuck? Acknowledge need for God and community. Just understand you can't do it alone. You're never meant to do it alone. You're never meant to suffer in silence. You're never meant to walk with this. When I often talk with these big burly guys up on site. They often afterwards, first time they've ever talked to maybe a male who hasn't said, oh, here's 50 cents, go and call someone who cares. Or has said, toughen up, princess. And as I sit and I listen and I make empathetic grunts, afterwards they're like, oh. I have experienced a level of honesty and rawness and openness that I've never experienced before. And I see those men and women go, I actually need others. And one of the beautiful things that John and I and others get to do, and Trav, is we get to triage and provide support for those. And I hope that is the same for you. So acknowledge, confess to a safe person, break secrecy's power. Receive gifts, receive grace, encouragement. That, for those listening to the podcast, it was a dog saying amen. Timing is everything. I'll try it again. Receive encouragement. Dang. It went roof. Receive and accountability. Sometimes, and this is the final point around that, is it's not a one-off. Often it's a journey, right? You unload the backpack so you can run the race and walk with God, the purpose, to know His love and to love Him and walk with Him. You can walk lighter, but it's an ongoing thing. Restitution, make amends where possible, as long as it doesn't cause more hurt. I remember Dave and Savina. Remember they came to church, and Dave was like an electronic tech, and he worked for IBM back in New Zealand, and he was a prolific thief. He said he managed to smuggle out components for IBM notebooks, so much so he'd assembled 10, 15 notebooks from his time working there. And he became a Christian, and he just got this ick about what he'd done. So he came to me one day and he said, I think I need to contact IBM and or the place I worked and let them know I stole 10, 15 computers and I can, go to jail, or I pay them back or whatever. I wanted to say to him, no, don't do that. Dumb idea. They're not safe people. But I said to him, yeah, if you need to. And he did. He wrote to them and he said, because what was he doing? He was saying, I want to make amends. Wow. They wrote back and said, yes, we've started proceedings against you and we'll see you in court. No, they actually said, thank you for letting us know. It's fine. Go in peace, kind of thing. Sometimes the stuff that weighs us down might hurt others, and it's appropriate to say, I'm sorry. I realize that now. I recognize that now. When I was in England, I heard my dad apologizing to my brother on the phone. At 88 years of age, he's saying, Andy, I'm sorry if I've hurt you by stuff I've done in the past. Let me put it right. Let me build a bridge. Thank you for the courage to let me know what you've been carrying. Final is the recovery. Maintain this path. Acknowledge the setbacks. You will have setbacks. Because we live in a world that says filters are definitely needed. But hopefully you can hear the whisper of God that says, no filters needed.
Thank you so much for joining us. Each week at West City, we say a benediction together. We do this because we believe that the purpose of the church is to be a caring community for the world, and that as we go and serve others, we enter into Christ's work of welcome, restoration, and healing, both for us and others. We believe that in doing so, we get to see and encounter Christ. So let's say the benediction together. we come together as the church to be reminded of the go of Christ. So we will go out and feed the hungry, go out and clothe the naked, go out and fight for justice, go out and end oppression, go out and proclaim anew the old story, go out and associate with those who don't look like us, think like us, act like us, and don't even like us. And we'll do it all in the name of the one who sent us. His name is Jesus.